Hello everybody, hopefully you can hear me. Just so that I know that you can, it'd be great if you could go down to the control panel and just put in the chat box that you can hear me. Okay, that's great. Plenty of people there saying that they can hear me. I'm just going to give it a minute or so just to let some other people who said that they would join us join in, and then we'll get started. All right, everybody, let's get started, and we've got a few sort of introductory slides, so anybody joining, I'm sure we'll be able to catch up. So, here we go. So, for those who maybe aren't that familiar with Zoom, hopefully you can all see a control panel somewhere on your screen, generally down at the bottom. And in that control panel, you'll find the chat and the Q&A button. And if for whatever reason you cannot see me, click on the three dots and then go down to the show video panel. So just a quick welcome. Thank you very much for giving up your time to be here today. I certainly hope that you're going to find this time that we spend together valuable. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ian Weir from Weir Associates, and we see our core purpose is quite simply just to make business owners' lives better. And we do that through a mixture of accountancy, business planning, and business coaching services. You know, and all I want to do is share information today and hopefully help some business owners out there put their mind at ease a little bit. So, agenda for today, we'll have a look at the latest government announcements. And then we'll have a look at some cash management actions you might want to take, along with how you can take control of your cash. We'll look at some funding options that are currently out there for you, and sort of latest updates I've had on the availability of that. Then we'll have a look at how you can get yourself into a positive mindset, because we are going to get through this. And obviously we want to get as many people through this as we can. So we'll talk about some things that you might like to do and think about. Then we can talk about some of the support that's out there for you and your businesses. And then at the end, we'll hopefully have time to answer some questions. I've already had some submitted, so hopefully if we don't answer them through the course of the webinar, we hopefully will by the end. So the latest announcements from the government, if we just wind back, I suppose about 10 days, and they seem to have a habit of announcing these on a Friday, I think, just to let people settle down over the weekend and try and figure it out. So there was a big announcement on the business rates. So basically, if your business owns a property, then you, well, not owns, occupies a property, then you will, have access to this if you qualify. So the access is automatic, and it will be done through your council tax bill. There's a 12-month business rates holiday for all retail, hospitality, leisure and nursery businesses in England at the moment. When it comes to grants. So this is the announcement about the £10,000 or £25,000 grant for small businesses. So this is all linked to your business rates. So if you don't currently occupy a property and you've never received a business rate demand or bill or anything to do with business rates from your local authority, then you're not going to qualify for this. But if you do, if you have ever had any of them, and if you're in receipt of small business rate relief or rural rate relief, then for small businesses, it's £10,000. And then they're increasing that to £25,000 for the retail, hospitality and leisure businesses with a property of rateable value between 15,000 and 51,000. One of the other announcements is around SSP, statutory sick pay. Just to let everybody know, the actual way that you're going to be able to get this rebate is still completely under development. A lot of these announcements they've just put out there, and then they're working out the details of actually how to deliver it in the background. And this SSP generally, well, not generally, SSP in normal conditions, you cannot reclaim that from the government, but they are allowing small and medium-sized employees, businesses with less than 250 employees, as at the 28th of February, to reclaim up to 2 weeks per eligible employee. So if you've had any employees off sick because of the coronavirus, then you will at some point be able to reclaim up to 2 weeks SSP for them. The next one, loans. With the loans, they've introduced these coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, which is offering loans of up to £5 million and for up to 6 years for SMEs. Now, these loans are being made available through the British Business Bank. Now, the British Business Bank is not a high street bank, so they are working with high street banks to get these loans out there. So you can't apply to the British Business Bank, you have to apply through your own normal bank or through a lending brokerage. It applies to companies with turnover up to £45 million. And if you are eligible for a coronavirus business interruption loan, then the government will pay any fees levied by the lender and up to 12 months of interest. Now, when it comes to these loans, the loan application, as we understand it, is going to be the exact same as though you're going to your bank and applying for a normal business loan. Your bank will then assess the viability of your business, and they will also look at the security that you have personally and around your business that they can secure the loan against. If they deem the security is enough for their normal lending criteria, they will offer you a loan on their normal lending criteria, and you will not qualify for a coronavirus business interruption loan. Unfortunately, at the moment, you can't demand to qualify. So it's basically for those businesses that really don't have any security that the banks would then look to pass that on and through the business interruption loan scheme. So just to reiterate, if you haven't got a lot of security, but you do have a viable business plan, the expectation for these is that you will still need to provide a viable business plan and probably a cash flow forecast to show that your business will come out the other side of this. So other things that they've done, HMRC deferring payments. So this is to do with VAT and other things. So when it comes to VAT, basically any payment, any VAT payment that you are due to make between now and the end of June, you can defer that up until the end of the tax year. So up to the 31st of March 2021. And the other thing that this applies to is self-assessment. So anybody who has to make self-assessment payments on account, the next one traditionally would be due on the 31st of July. What they're allowing you to do is just to defer that until the 31st of January 2021. All of these, the VAT and the self-assessment, there's no need to ring HMRC. They are automatic offers of support. You will not, or you shouldn't receive a letter, but you certainly won't get fined or interest charges for them. And then we come on to HMRC's time to pay arrangements. So this is if you have existing tax liabilities that you are struggling to fulfill. And these are going to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. If anybody has any of these, the phone number you need to ring is 0800 01 59 559. So that's 0800 01 59 559. Now, personally, I haven't rung HMRC myself, but I have heard that it is taking at least an hour to get through to them. Obviously, they're being hit by this virus and interruption as well. So it is going to be quite tricky to get through to them. But obviously, if you have existing tax liabilities that you think you may struggle to pay, then I would certainly recommend that you phone HMRC sooner rather than later. Now, the big announcement last Friday, was the coronavirus job retention scheme for furloughed employees. So the next bit is taken directly from the HMRC website. So all UK employers will be able to access support to continue paying part of the employee's salary for those employees that would otherwise have been laid off during this crisis. The key thing in there is employees. We're not talking about directors here who don't have an employment contract. We're talking about people who have an employment contract with their company. And what they will have to do is designate those affected employees as furloughed workers. They have to notify those employees of the change, and that change remains subject to existing employment law and depends on the terms of their employment contract. There may be some negotiation that is required there. But to be honest, I think given the current situation, if you have a member of staff and you say you're going to designate them as a furloughed worker, I don't think many people are going to say no to receiving 80% of their salary and told to not work. I suppose that's the other key thing, is that these furloughed workers cannot do any work during the period that they're furloughed. And then as a business, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to submit information to HMRC about the employees that have been furloughed and their earnings through a new online portal. At the moment, this portal does not exist. It's currently in development. And I have heard from one of our partners that who are in contact with HMRC that the current situation is that you will be very unlikely to see any of the rebates until the end of April at the earliest. So I suppose that comes on to the HMRC will reimburse 80% of furloughed workers of wage costs up to a cap of £2,500 per month. HMRC are working to set up this system, try and get something in place. I think the key thing there is employees with employment contracts, and then it'll be up to 80%. It is then up to you whether you decide to pay the extra 20% to put the person on full salary or not, but HMRC will only refund up to 80%, which is capped at 2,500. So I just wanted to just quickly talk about director-only limited companies. So it could be a husband and wife, 1, 2 director-only limited company that they do their services through, and the self-employed, because these are the people who seem to be falling through the gaps, although there was something that came out last night which may help a lot of people. So these people generally have no premises and no employees. So what support is out there for them? Well, just to recap, loans. Obviously, people may not want to take on extra debt, but if you're able to loans, talk to your bank, find out what their process is going to be, whether you're going to need a business plan, a cash flow forecast. Talk to them if you can. A lot of what we're hearing is that trying to get through on the phone is nigh on impossible. So look at the websites. They're asking people to submit applications where they can virtually. Use the deferred VAT and income tax payment. So if you're a self-employed owner director, if you're registered for VAT and you've got a VAT payment due up to the 30th of June, just defer it. Do not pay it until the end of the tax year. And likewise, self-assessment, if you've got payments on account, just do not pay that. Defer it till the 31st of January. And then obviously, if you've got existing liabilities, try and contact HMRC as soon as possible. Other things that were announced that could help these this group of people: the 3-month mortgage payment holiday. I myself have banked with Santander, and I noticed on their website they're now accepting applications on the website directly, and they're saying that it will not affect your credit rating. So if you're at all concerned about money, maybe that's one way of just conserving some cash. And the other thing, primarily for the self-employed, was the benefit system. They made some announcements around the universal tax credit, saying that it's easier to make a claim, and that the self-employed can now access in full universal credit at a rate equivalent to statutory sick pay for employees, which, let's face it, is £94.25 a week, which is not a lot of money, but it is something. However, there was something that came out last night, which may well help this group of people. So, proposed coronavirus bill amendment. I saw this late last night. There's an amendment which is currently being talked about, particularly for the self-employed and freelancers, that they would be entitled to the lower of 80% of their monthly net earnings averaged over the past 3 years, or £2,917 per month. So, in simple terms, £2,917 per month is the cap, and if 80% of your average monthly net earnings over the past 3 years is less than that, then that's what you would receive. Now, that's not an announcement. This is just something that the politicians are currently discussing and hoping that this amendment will go through. Now, the wording I've seen around this is to do with the self-employed and freelancers. Self-employed is obviously very straightforward. You either are or aren't. Freelancers, however, is a bit more open to interpretation, and I'm waiting to hear, but it may cover the sort of director-only limited companies where you have 1 or 2 directors. It may be that they fall under this definition of freelancers. So that's the major announcements that they have made. So now, just to try and help you, cash management and forecasting, things that you might want to do. So would strongly suggest that everybody review their business and personal expenditure at the moment. Look at the non-essential expenditure and just see what you can strip out. If there's anything in there that can be cancelled in the short term that you don't see as sort of vital. Review payment terms. If you have got personal loans, credit cards, bank loans, bank credit cards, try and talk to the lenders and see if you can review the payment terms on them, maybe get an interest holiday or something. We talked about payment holidays for mortgages. There's the 3-month payment holiday that's being offered. Obviously, different mortgage lenders will be doing it in different ways, but certainly that could potentially be a good way of trying to preserve some cash in the short term. Anyway, renegotiate borrowings. We sort of touched on that around the review payment terms. Obviously, defer any payments if you can with HMRC. There are the automatic ones of the VAT and the self-assessment, but if you have other tax liabilities, then please try and get in contact with them and see if you can work out a deferment schedule with them. And we'd strongly recommend that you prepare a cash flow forecast so that you are in control and you know exactly what's going to be coming in and what is going to be going out. And it will show you if you're going to have a requirement at some point in the future when you may need some additional funding, and you can start thinking about that now rather than waiting until your bank balance gets to such a level that you're in panic mode. So to help you with the cash flow forecasting, we've got a spreadsheet which I've kindly had shared by another accountant for me. That's the one thing at the moment, and actually for quite a long time, the accounting community is very supportive of each other. We do share resources and best practice. So this one I got from Mark Telford from Telford's, who's down in Kent. And this is what it looks like. Quite simply, it's Excel spreadsheet week by week. You put in your opening cash balance, you look at your customer receipts, and then you look at your outflows and just list everything out. And certainly a good exercise to do is to do this, put everything in there and see exactly what you're spending money on, and then go back and review it and look at the non-essential expenditure and just see, what do I really need that at the moment or not, and just highlight the things that you could strip out or maybe renegotiate with lenders, etc., whether you can push repayments out to try and keep your cash balance in the positive. So that's a very simple basic Excel tool that I will make available for people to download after this, if people want to do that. Another one, if your accounting system is on Xero, QuickBooks or Free Agent, then Float is something that we've just trialed. At the moment, it is purely a cash flow tool, and it will link up with your accounting software and import the historical data, but also future data. For us, it's great because recurring invoices are automatically put in there, and you can build a cash flow based on what you know, what you think it's going to be like. But one of the great things about this Float tool is that you can also build in scenarios. So you could build in a scenario saying, well, what happens if I lose X number of clients? What's that going to do to my cash? And you can see it in a graphical way. So it gives you full visibility of your future cash flow. You can look at it on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. So it gives you a real good insight into that. And it'll help you make some decisions about what you can afford and what you can't afford in your business at the model to try and protect your business at the moment. And it'll also show you what invoices you have outstanding. So, you know, people that maybe you should be ringing, asking when they'll be in a position to pay you if you have any outstanding debtors, and also any purchases you have to make yourself. So that's a great tool that we've certainly found. Now, when it comes to funding options, there are lots of products and options out there for people. So obviously there's traditional overdrafts, business credit cards, sorry, bank loans, but there's also things like invoice finance. The company called Citago that not only does, well, one of the arms is invoice finance, but they do summary credit reports, and they have an automated debtor chasing ability within their software. But one of the things they do offer is invoice finance, and it is done on an invoice by invoice basis. So they will lend, I think, up to 80% of the invoice value if they deem it to fit their lending criteria. So if you have a client who says, a large client who says, I'm not going to be able to pay you this week, but I will definitely be able to pay you next week, then you may be able to finance just that one invoice through Citago, get access to say 80% of the value of that invoice until your client pays you. Obviously there will be a small charge and some interest, but for peace of mind, that could work. Another one that we've used for clients in the past is a company called iWalker. We don't really recommend them or talk about them as a short-term backstop option because their interest rate is generally higher than your high street banks, but it is just a facility, so you can just draw down on it as and when you require the funds, and you only get charged interest for the days that you actually use the facility. Now, I received an email from them last night saying that normally when you apply to them, they make you an offer, and that offer lasts for 30 days. So you have 30 days to decide whether you're going to accept or reject the offer. And then once you accept it, you just need to draw down a little bit. They've actually reduced that offer period now to 7 days. And they said that they have had to temporarily tighten their lending criteria. I think that's just purely for the volume of applications that they are having. You know, they don't want people sitting on offers for too long, but we'd only really say, you know, use that as a backstop. So longer term options, obviously you've got loans, and we talked about invoice finance and Citago. Now with some of these, you may need to provide a personal guarantee or a company debenture, which is basically a charge on the company assets, like a mortgage, but that will obviously vary depending on the type of finance being sought and what the lending criteria is, and whether you have any security. Things like Citago and iWalker can be very quick. iWalker we have managed in the past to secure funding within hours. But like I said, it is more of a backstop, short-term solution. Your bank will probably be cheaper, but it will be slower, certainly, so it will take longer. And And like we said, it will probably require a business plan and a cash flow forecast to show the viability of your business. The way that iWalker will assess you is that they will link up to your accounting software, and you grant them view-only access, and then they will have a look and make a risk assessment based on that. So there are lots of different types of funding options out there. Some are quick, some are going to be slower. Obviously, you need to think about how you would make the repayments, and also the cost of borrowing, the interest rates that you're going to be offered. So obviously, we're in quite very unusual times, and I just wanted to share with you a mindset to hopefully try and get everybody into a positive mindset, because that's what we need to be, where we need to be, to get ourselves, our family, and our businesses through this. So this mindset, OARBED, is basically above the line and below the line thinking. So if you're thinking below the line, you're likely to become a victim. And below the line thinking is blaming people, making excuses and denying. So you blame whoever the man was who ate the bat in China. You make excuses that you can't do something because something else is happening, or you just deny that that it's even happening to you. And this behaviour is kind of quite often seen in children, dare I say. But where we want to get is we want to get above the line. We want to become a victor. And to become a victor, we really need to take ownership of our situation, our personal finances, our business finances, and make sure that we're standing up for that and hold ourselves accountability for doing that, and making sure that we are taking the responsibility on ourselves of doing that. So I really want everybody to get into that mindset. Yeah, we're in incredibly difficult times, but we really need to take ownership of our situation, our individual situations, and put actions in place. So just hopefully to make it a bit easier for people to remember. If you want to be a victor, you can get your oar, jump in a boat and start going somewhere. Or if you want to be a victim, you can stay in bed with the duvet over you and wake up when it's all over and see what's left. So hopefully we're all in the mind that we're going to be victors, and we're going to take ownership of our own situations, and we're going to get on and do some stuff and get through this. So here's some quick things that you might want to do, some quick wins that you might want to do in your personal situation, and also your business situation. Is obviously, like we talked about, lots of little changes can actually add up to a big change. So look at the non-essential costs that you're incurring personally and in your business. See if any of them can be stripped out. Do a cash flow forecast so that you know exactly where potential pain points may be. You can look to put some funding in place, and then only draw down if needed. So that's something along the terms of iWalker. Unfortunately, like I said, their offers have reduced from 30-day period down to 7-day period. So when it's 30 days, you could have that peace of mind for the next month that you still had that approved. And then quick wins as well. I mean, we're seeing it already that some businesses are actually have managed to sort of get some new revenue streams. Obviously not after last night's announcement, but cafes and restaurants were becoming takeaways. Obviously that's restricted after last night's announcement. There was a company in Cambridge that used to do B2B fruit and veg deliveries. Well, they're now doing B2C, so business to consumer. Fruit and veg delivery is something that he'd never thought of, but obviously his B2B business fell off a cliff because everybody shut their offices. So he's turned his deliveries into consumers. For self-employed people who, maybe their business has just gone overnight, maybe think about, well, could you go and work for somebody at the moment just to get through this? Obviously, the supermarkets are recruiting at the moment. Might not be ideal work, but it's probably going to pay you more than the £94.25 a week. I was talking to somebody I know in the care work sector, and they were saying that care workers are required. Obviously, some of them are going off sick. Asked him about training, and he said that no, still, if somebody's willing to work, then they will probably be able to get some work in the care work sector. So, and I think HMRC will probably be recruiting some people. Whether we'll be able to do it remotely, I don't know. But if your income has fallen off a cliff, try and think a little bit outside the box. Is there anything that you can change in your business to try and serve other customers, or just do something completely different for the moment? So in your businesses, in your work processes, think about how long you're able to keep working. If you can work, still keep working, still keep talking to your clients, and serving those clients as long as you can. If there's any work that you can bring forward, then I would certainly recommend that you do that. Alternatively, try and use the time productively. Look at your business, look at things that you've been too busy to do in the past. It's on your to-do list, but it never quite gets done. Think about, well, if I can't do any client work, at least I can put some things in place, plans in place, that when we come out of this, I'll then be able to lift my business back up. And that, that could be looking at other revenue streams, which you may not have considered. Obviously, also think about friends and family. Don't neglect them. We're all stuck inside now, so do try and spend some time with them, not just in your offices. And focus on the short term to try and get through this, but also, what you're going to do when we do come out of this, because we will get through it. And people that take action will get through this. Try and make lots of small positive changes in your business, because those small changes, they may seem only small, but they will help and they will add up to a lot. And when you come through it, you will certainly reap the benefits of that. So I'm just going to share with you some support that's out there from some of our partners and ourselves. At the moment, Xero are offering 50% off for 4 months. Whether that will change or not, I don't know. But if your accounts for your business currently aren't in the cloud, this may be a good time to try and get them up there, because a lot of lending firms will actually use that information on their criteria. Like I said, somebody like iWalker, you just give them access to your accounting software in Xero, and they have view only, and they will make a decision based on that. Float, which I talked about earlier, they are offering that free until the 31st of May. So what's that? 2 months and a week, roughly. For any clients on the call, I'll be contacting you to see whether you want to link your Xero up to that. If you're not a client, then I will share a link for Float so that you can access that for free until the 31st of May. And just a reminder, that's if you're on Xero, QuickBooks or Free Agent. Citago, I was talking to my account manager yesterday, and they're currently offering 3 months free access on there. So if you're thinking about invoice financing, credit reports, things like that, debtor chasing, debtor management for your company, then you can have access to that for free. next week, probably this time, we'll be putting on a business continuity webinar, helping people just think about how they can make plans and really get through this. Ourselves, we're members of an organisation called TAG, and TAG is an accountants community. It's a national organisation. There's over 100 accountants in it, and what TAG brings to ourselves and those other accountants is that they have specialist technical teams who can assist our clients. So some of the things that they can assist with is corporate finance, mortgage advice, employment law advice, insolvency and recovery, legal advice, cost reduction, pensions, life insurance, investments, health and safety, a whole load of things. So if you get any requirements around corporate finance in particular, mortgage law, insolvency and recovery, then please do get in contact. Ourselves, we will continue to put on webinars to hopefully support our clients and non-clients out there, just the business community in general, and we'll be sending out emails. So obviously anybody who isn't subscribed to our emails, we'll send out a link which will allow you to subscribe to them. And like I said at the start, you know, we do a lot of business planning, business coaching and accountancy, so we can help you with forecasting, business plans, etc., and just general advice and support for you and your business. But I will send out a document with a lot of links on it, saying how you can access all of these things if you're interested. Questions. We did have some questions beforehand, which were submitted. If people do have other questions, if they could just put them in the Q&A box, that would be great. So I'm just going to run through the questions that we have had. So how can we secure the 80% of salary costs for staff? Well, like we said, to be eligible for this 80% of salary costs, you're going to have to make these employees furloughed. You're probably going to have a discussion with them, tell them that that's what you're doing with them, and maybe change their employment contract. You're then going to have to run that through your payroll. Not entirely sure how that is going to work at the moment, because HMRC are just currently developing the system that will allow this to be done, and we've been told or advised that it's not going to be available till, or the funding, the 80% funding will not come through until the end of April at least. So at the moment, for the March payrolls, I'll put my hand up and say we're not entirely sure as at today exactly how you can do this for your staff. Oops, hang on. So is there, sorry, just had somebody ask a question through the chat. Is there any help for companies which currently have savings in the bank, but with the prospect of no income for at least 6 to 12 months may not be able to pay the staff in 3 to 4 months' time? I think the only help out there is through this furlough scheme, which they're saying is going to last for 3 months. Now, whether that's going to be extended, who knows? But I think at the moment, you just have to do the best that you can for your staff and for the business. So I think, as per the previous one, you probably have to make them furloughed and pay them 80% up to you whether you top that up to the 100%. And again, use the money in the business. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's the situation at the moment. The next one, as I'm the only one on payroll, is my company eligible for any government support for payment of the salary? I think that very much comes down to whether you are a director with an employment contract or not. If you've got an employment contract, then yes, through the 80% furloughed employee, you could get some government support there. But if you're a director without a contract, then I think it's going to come down to this amendment that is going through Parliament at the moment. And then the last one that we had is what support is there for the self-employed? Like we said earlier, not a huge amount. The government sort of seemed to fall back on universal credit, making that easier and more accessible. But again, hopefully we will see that amendment to the coronavirus bill going through, and hopefully that will be announced, which will certainly put a lot of self-employed people's minds at rest. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the other questions that have come through. Have you seen anywhere whether the grants of 10 to 25 based on rateable value are per site for retailers or per business single grant? To be honest, I have seen some things that suggest per business, and then other things that suggest per site. So I will ask that of my contact at TAG and come back to you with an answer, definitive answer on that. So that's whether the rate grants of 10 and 25,000 are per site or per business. And then we've got one, how do we notify staff that are now furloughed, and can this apply to staff currently on maternity leave? We were not HR consultants or employment law people. So I believe the furloughed, making them furloughed is done through changing the contract and having a conversation with them, because there may be some negotiation there, but I would certainly recommend that you talk to an HR professional on that. And like I said before, we can put you in contact with somebody at TAG HR if that is of interest. We've got another one. Is it possible to change employee status to furloughed workers for a period, then back to employed as necessary, or is it a one-off change? As far as I'm aware, you would change it to a furloughed worker, but by definition, that person is just being made furloughed for a period of time, and then at the end of that period, they would either be taken back as employed or maybe made redundant. Personally, I think this is something that may be extended, just depending on how long this lockdown goes on for. We've got another one. Most of us running a small one-person VAT registered limited company will be paid in a mixture of PAYE and dividend. Do you get any sense of whether the possible new measures may be based on one or the other of these incomes? Right, so what I've seen on this one, so this is the amendment going through Parliament at the moment being discussed. My understanding and what I've seen is that it would be based on your PAYE salary, not on your dividends as well. And then somebody asking who's delivering the fruit and veg in Cambridge. It's Neil Badwara from the Cambridge Fruit Company. I don't know if he's got any fruit and veg left, but he was also, as well as delivering it to consumers, he was delivering it to frontline NHS staff, and people could go on and buy a box to send to them. So that was certainly, fantastic of him to do that. Can you clarify if universal credit, is it for self-employed only? This person's a sole director with no contract, just director's remuneration, etc. To be honest, I am not an expert in the universal tax credit system, but obviously if you're struggling, then I would certainly give them a ring and see if there is any support from that. The announcement around that universal credit was really aimed at the self-employed to help them claim at least the £94.25 a week, equivalent to the statutory sick pay. So as a sole director, I suppose the way of accessing that would be to put yourself onto statutory sick pay. Would be the way to do that. So that's, I think, the end of the questions that I have got at the moment. So that people have got my contact details, I'll just put them up on the screen there. A couple of telephone numbers, mobile number, obviously website, and email address if people want to get in contact. I will send out a document with lots of links for some of the things that we've talked about, and in particular the cash flow model, the Excel spreadsheet that you can download and take control of your own personal and business cash. So I suppose finally, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining me today, and just also say that probably this time next week, we'll be doing a business continuity webinar. We will definitely be doing a business continuity webinar. It's just whether it's going to be this time next week. But we will be doing one, and we will be sending out more information as soon as we know it. Unfortunately, a lot of the announcements being made are very big and sound very good on the surface, but when we get into the detail, they're not quite as generous as they seem, and a lot of the systems aren't there to deliver them at the moment. So hopefully everybody's staying safe, and I'm going to let you get on with the rest of your day. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope you found it of value. Thank you. Bye.